Hey everyone, it's Elo. I hope that you're doing well. Today's video is not the one I thought I was going to shoot at all, but my recent video talking about heterosexual dating trends had developed a comments section that for the most part was understanding and positive, and I think really connected with what I was trying to reflect on. But there was also a percentage of the comments that skewed towards a problem I feel like we have in today's society that I think people are starting to get sick of and starting to speak out against. So I just wanted to talk about kind of like binary thinking, canceling people, not allowing for generalizations, and as I had sort of tried to mention in my pinned comment for the previous video, kind of talking about word association in a way. So, oh man, this is a topic that I feel like most people would agree with if they could like wake up, and I feel like a lot of people already do agree with, and I know that there's also a portion of the population who's going to dig their heels into the mud and be stubborn and try to stand up for their cause at any cost, even logic. So obviously this problem, like every problem I talk about, is compounded by the internet, social media, and especially in this case, internet history, and people's ability to dig up stuff on other people on the internet. I kind of tried to mention this a little bit in that dating video as well, because I was talking about the fact that a lot of us older people try to, or some of us sometimes, try to act like we've done no wrong in life, and like we wouldn't have some of the similar transgressions that people are getting in social trouble for nowadays. And I think that that's just unrealistic. Kids are kids, and everyone goes through a learning phase. Everyone's figuring out their own identity and figuring out how they fit into the larger puzzle. And you know, even with saying words that you shouldn't say, when you're younger, it's kind of just like edgy, and you don't really know what you're saying, but you're saying it because it gets a reaction, and because it makes you seem cool, or because it's, I don't know, a good way to vent your frustration. And it's also your way that you can stick it to the man sometimes. You know, if you say fuck in front of your parents when you're 10, most parents are going to get a rise out of that. Same thing at school. You can't just cuss in the classroom. So when it comes to people just using bad words, I'm not talking about hate speech. I'm talking about just having any slur or bad word in an old tweet, for example. I'm not condoning that behavior, and this is where the binary thinking comes in. Me even starting to say this is going to make some people bristle and say, oh my god, she's defending people who use slurs. And that's not the case, and that's not the point, and anyone who can see around that will know that for sure. What I am saying is that we were all young once, and we all made stupid decisions, and we all said things that we shouldn't have said, and that's a very normal part of human growth and living. It's insane to think that just because people have social media, they're going to skip that part of growing up. Culturally, that is how our society is. No matter what color you are, no matter where you're raised, we all kind of have the same boundaries in that way as children, depending on how far our parents are willing to control us, I guess. So again, not saying that I'm condoning people saying awful things about other people, but I am saying that if someone said something stupid in the 4th grade and they're now 35 years old and you're getting onto them for something that they said when they were like 10, why are we doing this? Like, why? Who are these people that have enough time to sit around and go through someone's internet history that in depth? It just blows my mind that people have time to do that. Like, if you have that much free time, you are not living your life, and you might as well just do nothing, because that is a waste of your life. No one should have time on their hands like that unless it's their job. That's just insane. And this is part of the kind of like modern witch hunt that I feel like exists, not only with things like that, but also with things like the topic that I was talking about. In that video, in the first part, sorry, this is funny to me, but I was reporting on things that I have heard. Those could not have been my opinions, because I am not a male. I'm not a heterosexual male, and I'm not a heterosexual male looking to date a heterosexual female. All of the things that I discussed in that video were from that viewpoint. And I had multiple people calling me a misogynist or telling me that I was being sympathetic to incel culture, which I take offense to. Honestly, I think that's just crazy. You don't go around saying stuff like that to someone just because they are speaking about something differently than you would. Those were not statistics that I made up. These were things that I had spent lots of time, many hours researching and learning about. And I thought about making that video for weeks because I wasn't sure how pervasive the problem was. I wanted to do more research. I wanted to look at different outlets other than YouTube and Reddit. I wanted to know, is this really something that is happening? Is this really a trend? Or is it just something that some nerds are out there, getting mad at women? And I know that the latter is not true. I've done enough research to know that the men who have those criteria of what they want in their life partner are not bitter little people who are, damning women for their freedom and their choices. It's no different than me saying, I want to date a male or a female who has, I want them to be loyal, I want them to be humble, and I want them to have a good job. If those are my 3 criteria for finding a partner, that doesn't make me anti people who are not those things. It's just that I have judged those things to be most important to me in finding a life partner. And these men are doing the exact same thing. I'm not saying that people shouldn't do OnlyFans. I'm not saying that people shouldn't be in the sex work industry. What I am saying is that the women who are out there, or the young girls who are out there, who have the goal of finding a straight man and marrying him, whether or not you're going to have kids, which is a whole nother layer. This is information pertaining to that sector of people, which is a group that I'm not even in. This is all an outside perspective, and just reflection and discussion. And I appreciate everyone who, was willing to discuss it, even if they did feel like I was taking a stand against women, which is just, I still can't really wrap my head around that because it just makes no sense to me. But I really think that it's just a product of the way that our society is right now. You can't say certain things without people immediately condemning you and saying, well, you said this thing, so you fit in group A, and you think this thing, so you fit in group B. Not only is that a horrible practice because of the way that our language is, and the fact that not everyone uses the same words for everything. The English language has the most amount of words to choose from. So we could be saying the exact same thing in different terms, or we could be saying the exact same terms and mean 2 different things. It's very open to interpretation, and people lately are interpreting things too quickly. They don't have enough evidence, or not even evidence, because that just automatically puts the person in the guilty seat. They just don't have enough knowledge, enough information to really make a good judgment about someone, and they're just immediately condemning them and saying, you are bad, you said this thing and I didn't like that thing because it means this to me, and therefore you're bad. It's very bubbled thinking. I feel like the pandemic certainly didn't help this, but I do think that the whole Gen Z, for the most part, and I'll talk about generalizations in a moment, Gen Z is different because of their progressing through life with that instantaneous technology that none of the rest of us have ever had the experience of growing up with. They're the first ones. And I think it can be very isolating in a way, but it can also really get you stuck in your own head. And that is something that is terrible for mental health. And anyone who suffers with mental health issues will tell you that the more you're alone, even if you want to be alone, the worse your sort of psychosis gets. That happened to me multiple times in my life at varying degrees, where I was a hermit and it became so difficult for me to go out and deal with people because I was only living in my mind. I was not at all living in reality. I was assuming things about people. I felt like everyone was looking at me. I was incredibly paranoid, and my view of my experiences was tainted by that belief that I couldn't socialize, I didn't know what I was doing, I was going to make an idiot out of myself, etc. You start to believe those things after a while, and it really doesn't take that long if you're already prone to having poor self-esteem. And I think that a lot of Gen Z does have poor self-esteem, even if they shouldn't, because of things like Instagram. So it's a dangerous set of kind of almost rules at this point that people are living by, where it's not just about second chances. It's not about giving people another shot. It's about intellect and patience and waiting until you know what you're talking about before you talk. No one does that anymore. People can read just a headline of an article, which we all know headlines can be very misleading. How many times have you clicked on a YouTube video thinking it was going to be about one thing and it was not at all, or barely scraped that thing that you clicked for? I mean, it happens all the time in journalism and in media. People are manipulating the viewers or the readers intentionally. And we know this. Yet, people can still read a headline and never read the article, and then go tell their friend immediately. They don't have to go down the street. They don't have to use the payphone. They don't have to dial any numbers. They can just text someone. They can text a whole group of people. And these people don't even have to be local. They could be around the world. And you're telling them something that you don't really know the truth about. You're just rolling with the little teeny bit of information that you've gotten up to that point. That's a huge problem. A huge problem. And it causes people to be on the defensive a lot. I know that for pretty much all of like 2000, maybe 17, 18, 19, I was constantly worried that something I was doing or saying was wrong. Which is, it's just a crazy concept, because I know in my mind and in my heart who I am and the way I feel about people and certain subjects. And I also know that I'm very open to learning, and I know that I am comfortable being wrong, and I know that I have developed enough emotionally and intellectually to make good decisions for myself that I believe in. Am I going to make mistakes now and then? Yes, we all are. And I would hope that no one's going to jump down my throat when I do make that mistake, because then it's just going to make me not want to do anything in that realm again, which is really sad. And it only pushes people further into their bubble when you do that. So, I felt very concerned about what I was thinking, even. Like, if I had a certain thought, it made me a bad person, because even though I didn't know it, thinking of something in those terms is actually supporting the patriarchy, or is actually, I don't know, influencing kids to do something bad, or is actually supporting a corrupt government, or whatever. Like, every single category, from gender, even saying the word gender, I was worried, like, okay, I don't want to offend anyone. How do I show everyone that I love them all equally and that I'm happy for them to be who they are? How do I phrase things so that people who are non-binary or trans, or people who, I don't know, just feel uncomfortable in themselves at this stage in their life, how do I include them with my language? And we are developing new inclusive language, but we're also taking it a step too far, in my opinion, because we're doing it recklessly. It would be different if we were carefully crafting language to match what we mean, but we're not, and people don't always have the right language. And if I don't have the right language and I say something wrong, all I can do is say, excuse me, I'm sorry, and then move on, and know in my head that, okay, this is what I do next time. And that's real life. That's how things should be. You shouldn't treat people like they're horrible, Hitler-esque, just supporters of all things terrible because they said one thing that you think sounded a certain way. Just consider what you know about that person. A lot of the people who did get bad feelings from that video that I put up were still willing to talk to me and to keep subscribed to my channel and keep talking the problems out. And I think that's good, because I believe that shows that those people feel like they know me well enough by this point to be like, okay, well, that sounded that way, but I know Elo doesn't believe those things, or Elo's not typically against this or that or the other thing. So I feel like they were able to see around that and not just say, you are bad, bye. And I did have about 50 people unsubscribe from my channel, which, it's not funny, but it's sad, and I guess I just deal with it by laughing. And just thinking about all the connections and all the potential friendships that we miss out on because we're so quick to judge people. Everyone thinks it's okay because they feel like they're judging for a good cause. And how could I be wrong if I'm sticking up for women's rights? How could I be wrong if I am condemning a hate group? Your ideology isn't wrong. What's wrong is the communication line between you and the potentially offending party. It's really a very quick way to isolate yourself and to live in the so-called echo chamber, where the only people that you talk to just parrot back exactly what you think and feel, and you never grow, and you never learn, and you never get to appreciate the fact that there are so many more people out there who believe what you believe. They just might not say it the way that you say it. Which, I don't know, I guess I would want to roll that into the concept of generalizations and just start off by saying it's okay to make generalizations. That shouldn't be a question. It's so frustrating to me when I say something like brown-haired people have brown eyes, typically. Yes, that's not always true, but generally, most people with brown hair have brown eyes. That is a fact. If you fall outside of that fact, great for you. It doesn't matter. It doesn't affect the point of whatever I'm saying, because my point is not proving that every single person with brown hair has brown eyes. Those are two very different things. And if you don't allow people to talk in generalizations, it's going to be really difficult to talk about anything at all. It's going to take so much time just to specify who you're talking about, or what perspective you're coming from, or, you know, a certain niche group of people. Why is everyone making everyone do that? It's annoying. It's far too involved. It doesn't make any sense to do that. Generalizations are not a bad thing in and of themselves. If a generalization is being used to do something bad, yes, that's bad. But the bad thing is the bad thing. It's not the generalization. The words, of course, have influence. But the issue, when we take it up, should be with the action that they're causing. And, you know, if you want to from there say, hey, be careful with this generalization, or, you know, it's another generalization that the people who are saying these things are doing this awful thing. A lot of them, not all of them. Very rarely does anything in life cover all of something. That's just not reality. And for people to keep pushing these things and thinking that they're doing something good, it's really bad, as a matter of fact, because you're making people fearful of saying how they feel, and then people grow resentment. I grew a little bitter over the course of those 3 or 4 years that I was policing myself with every single thought and every single thing I said. It's not a fun way to live, and it really irritated me because I felt like I couldn't speak anymore. I'm not against removing inequalities from our world, but why are we taking the problem up with the language when the language has more than one meaning? Yes, if you're using it in a certain way and we've all decided that it's bad, then it's bad. We all agree that it's a bad thing to call someone the N-word. We don't do it. We say N-word, which sounds like we're doing baby talk. Like, we don't say that about any other word. So we all know, don't do that shit. If someone does that while they're rapping in their car, did it hurt anyone? No. Did they mean anything by it? No. If certain people still want to get upset about that, okay, that's their right. But you, as the person rapping in your car with no one the fuck around, really should not have to feel guilty when you're just enjoying music. That's a different thing than calling someone the N-word. And that's the most extreme example that I can think of, because I'm trying to illustrate the point that just saying a word or a phrase doesn't make it bad. It just doesn't. And yes, I'm not going to argue with people who still would say, don't ever even have that word come out of your mouth ever. Okay, you have the right to say that, and I'm not going to argue that. But for the other points out there, the other phrases, the other words, fucking say that shit. Like, it doesn't matter. You know what you mean. And if someone else is going to jump down your throat about it, that's their decision. And hopefully you can have a calm, intellectual discussion with them about it, so that you can get on the same page and they can recognize that you're not a bad person. But if they've just gone so far into their own bubble that they can't accept the fact that you might not be a bad person, that's not your fault. And I just don't feel like we should all have to tiptoe around each other with everything that we say out of fear that we're going to be, I don't know, just harshly criticized or cast aside or branded as some certain thing. You know, we can all think back to a time in like middle school, elementary school, whenever, that rumors went around. And I think rumors weren't as big of a deal, but they still showed how words can have a very powerful effect. The things that people say do matter, in the sense that if you're intentionally saying something hateful, it's not good. That should be common sense, in my opinion. But, you know, if I still remember that there was a rumor that this kid in a different class than mine, like, cried all day and then threw up on like his very first day of kindergarten because he was homesick and wanted to go home to his mom. And in 4th grade, you know, people remembered that and started calling him a mama's boy when they learned that phrase. That's obviously mean. But then there were other rumors that came around from some idiot in class who would say, God, what was one that we all believed? I don't know. A lot of the times there would be rumors that like a female celebrity like Britney Spears or someone had a penis, and that would just be like all the school could talk about for a couple days, but it didn't do any long-term damage. It was a false, as far as I'm aware, who knows, you know, statement, and rumors aren't nice, but it wasn't directed. Britney didn't know that. Britney Spears doesn't know that my tiny ass class in elementary school thought she had a dick. Like, that's not relevant. And that's, I think, the last thing that I really want to touch on with this topic is mind your own goddamn business. Like, it's not for you to go out and judge everyone. If you're Christian, which a lot of people are, or religious at all, even, your religion likely tells you not to do that shit, even if you think you're doing it for the right reasons. In any situation, you're not supposed to judge other people in that way. You can decide whether you think they have good character or bad character, but just judging someone is not supposed to be something that anyone with those values does. Okay, let's say you're not religious. First of all, you have too much time on your hands. If you are going around digging up information on people and just reading into rabbit holes on the internet, get a hobby, do more at your job, focus more on your relationships, go to therapy, pick up a sport, be more active, stop eating Doritos and sitting there and just reading up on people's lives. It's a waste, and like really those people need a strong, wake up call, in my opinion. I think they are the ones who are really spreading the wildfire and kindling these things and creating a problem that doesn't really need to be a problem. You don't have to look at what someone was saying in the 6th grade to know if they're a good person now. People say dumb shit while they're growing up. They might not even know what they were saying. It's just crazy. So I would suggest, and again, who am I? Nobody, but I would suggest that people determine whether or not that thing is going to affect you. Is it going to affect you if, I don't know, if Michael Jordan said something very anti-woman in 1982, does that affect your life right now? Is there any effect that that's ever going to have on your life? And if the answer is no, and you don't know that person and you don't know the whole story in any case, leave it alone. Just, it's not your business. And people just keep making everyone else's business their business and not focusing on themselves at all. Everyone just keeps pointing the finger at someone else, and they never take the time to work on who they are because they're so convinced that they're doing the right thing and the good thing. You can never be too convinced of that, which is why I was questioning myself for so long, like, oh God, is there anything I do believe that is bad? But as long as you have that willingness to learn, then you're not a bad person for still learning. We learn throughout our entire lives. No one knows everything. No one's perfect. People can change their minds on things. People can become educated on things. People are not stagnant, and they're not static. People are not just one thing or the other thing. It's not black and white. Being alive is not linear. There's so many twists and turns. There's so many things that change you. There's things that you can't predict. You just don't know. And it's unfair for everyone to be running around and criticizing people while they're learning. It doesn't help anyone. It's not going to make for a better future. fight for the things you believe in, sure, but find actual credible ways to do that, other than just hammering someone into the ground for something that you don't even know firsthand. That is bad practice. That's doing a disservice to yourself and to your fellow human beings. That's isolating people. That is harming people's mental health. That is sometimes ruining careers of innocent people. That's just awful. And I really hope that more people come around to that idea and stop assuming so much about so little. It's just not a good thing to do. So, I don't know. Is there anything else that can be said about this topic? I guess just, going back to my video, the things that I was saying about women were not me saying, hey, women should conform to what men want. It was me saying, hey, if you happen to be out there as a hetero female or hetero male who's looking to settle down in a serious relationship, here's some information that might be interesting to you. A lot of high value men are feeling like they can't find the one for these reasons. A lot of women are feeling like they should be picked up by a certain standard of men, or feeling like they're owed certain things or entitled to certain things without necessarily assessing what they're bringing to the table. Is it everyone? No, I never said everyone. No one fits perfectly, or no phrase like that would fit perfectly for everyone. It just so happens that there is data out there, real sciencey shit, that says, hey, this is a problem right now. Whether or not that affects you, I'm sorry if it does. It doesn't affect me. I was just hypothesizing ways that gap could be bridged for future generations, for children who want heterosexual romance and they want what they think of as love. I think we need to do a better job teaching people what that means and what a long-term relationship really looks like, what it entails. So I'm sad that, people took things so wrong, but I was expecting it because I know that this is our culture right now. I know that acknowledging that men have feelings and opinions and a lived experience automatically makes people think that you are either catering to them or putting them up on a pedestal or in some way making a negative towards women. Which, if you're a woman and you don't define yourself by a man, what does it matter what I say about men or what anyone says about men anyway? That's faulty logic there, but, talking about the things that men are talking about doesn't mean that you are erasing how women feel or women's experience. And I don't believe in the whole, well, they've had their time and now it's our time thing, because I think that's dumb. Like, don't we all want to work together? I don't want to trample anyone. I'm not here to push men out of the way. I think that we should be on a common ground, and if that's not your goal, then I would question that. That would be my, like, okay, what are you aiming for? Because there's no need to put men into a little box and close it in order to progress society. The fact that human beings could want to do that to other human beings is just crazy to me, and the fact that no one realizes that that's not going to help educate people is also crazy to me. And I had someone saying that I was, like, aside from saying that I was an incel sympathizer, someone was saying that I was, making those claims to attract, I don't know, a certain type of man or something to get clicks, which again makes no sense literally at all. But also, why does it have to be that way? Why does talking about these things in general mean automatically that any male who engages with this topic or agrees with these things that are statistically out there has got to be a horrible person? What? I don't know. I don't get it. And it gives me a little bit of a headache, and I just had to discuss it here because it is a serious problem. As much as it makes me kind of laugh, it's laughter out of exasperation. I'm just like so far beyond being able to care on the level that I was before, because it's just exhausting, and you run into the same mentality over and over again with different people. It's really sad, and I hope that it's something that we can shake. And yeah, other than that, I don't think I have more to really say on this topic, so I will see you in my next video.